Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of Tiger Tech Podcast. We are your hosts, Sophia and Zoe. In celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, we'll be talking to Miss Julia Cervantes-Espinoza about her children's books. We are so excited that you can join us today. Can you take a brief moment to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Tiger Tech Leaders, here at Garbanza Elementary. My name is Julia Cervantes-Espinoza, and I'm a children's book author. I wrote my first 2 books last fall in 2019, in October, and then another in December. And I'm very happy to be here with you today. Actually, on the side, I'm also an educator. I've been a teacher in LAUSD for 17 years.
You have authored 2 children's books so far, Christmas Time A to Z with Rosita and Calavera Calavera, What Do You See? What inspired you to write these books that celebrate the Hispanic culture?
Thank you. That's a great question. What inspired me was that I was looking for books on Dia de los Muertos that were appropriate for my, at time, 3-year-old. Now she's 4. And also I was at the time I was a teacher in a dual language program, TK in kindergarten. And the kids that were in my class were English speakers only, and they were learning Spanish as a second language. So this definitely came as a resource for my own students as well. But why did I write, aside from my students and my daughter? I wanted to make sure that there's literature out there for those that are learning Spanish or want to know more about Dia de los Muertos or about Christmas in the way it's celebrated for second generations or immigrants here in the United States.
Can you read a few favorite pages from your book to us?
Yes. So from Calavera Calavera, What Do You See? One of my favorite pages is actually the page that I read earlier to you with all the items on the altar. So it is believed that on the Day of the Dead, the spirit of a loved one comes back to be with the family and other loved ones. And the family, to prepare for this day, sets up an altar, an altar, with special foods and drinks that the person that passed away can come back and enjoy. So the page reads, Altar, altar, what do you see? And then it says, I see a mariachi looking at me. The next page says, Mariachi, mariachi, what do you see? We see the Catrina looking at us. And on the page, what pops out in the illustration is the one item that is mentioned. So for altar, you see a picture of the altar with the ofrendas, cempasúchil, papel picado, calaveritas, pan de muerto. You see all of those things on the altar. And on the mariachi page, which is my other favorite, personally, I really love the mariachi band, Mariachi Divas, which is a band, a mariachi band composed of only women. So I wanted to celebrate them, and my illustrator went ahead and drew 4 mariachi band women playing the 4 essential instruments in order to be a mariachi band, to be a mariachi.
Who were you thinking about when you wrote these books?
I was thinking about, as I mentioned earlier, I was thinking about my daughter, that at the time was 3 years old. I was thinking about students that I've had in the past. As I mentioned, I've also been an educator for 17 years. And I've taught in dual language programs for kindergartners and also 2nd and 3rd grade. So I was thinking about them and how to come up with a book that was simple enough, yet rich enough that it would teach the kids that want to know more about Dia de los Muertos and give them the correct term in Spanish for the item that we often see in the celebration.
How do you think your books influence the children who read them?
I'm hoping that, well, I'll start with this. When I was growing up, many years ago, I never saw books like this read in my classroom. I love Halloween, and I always saw Halloween books, but I never saw anything on Dia de los Muertos. So my hope is that kids that are coming from Hispanic and Latinx, have a Hispanic and Latinx heritage, that they see books in their classroom that represents them and the celebrations that they also celebrate. And I'll say this, my other book, the Rosita book, which is a Christmas book A through Z, growing up, I didn't know what eggnog was, but I was born and raised here in the United States, but I knew what champurrado was, and I never saw that my teachers mentioned that. So again, with this book, also bringing items that are prevalent in the Hispanic Latinx culture that might not appear in regular Santa Claus English books. Buñuelos is another item, and I know I mentioned food a lot here, but really food is a staple in any culture around a celebration. So buñuelos and churros, those are items that you see a lot around Christmas.
We noticed a familiar pattern of Eric Carle's Brown Bear book in your Calavera Calavera, What Do You See picture book. What are some of your favorite book authors that have influenced your writing?
So definitely, yes, great observation. Definitely Eric Carle in the simplicity of, having just one item that is new on that page and highlighting it with the illustration. Another one of my very, very favorite book authors is Mo Willems. I love his pigeon books and the Piggy and Gerald books. And in my book, not Calavera, but in the Rosita book, I did take a hint from Mo Willems. Mo Willems uses a lot of capital letters. And like when he says, let me drive the bus, he uses capital letters. So definitely I went ahead and I said, you know what, in my Rosita book, when there's a part where I say all my primos, which is all of my cousins. I put that in capital letters because I want students to read it in that way, like a bit more exaggerated. And aside from them two, I also really enjoy books by Robert Munch.
Do you have plans to write more books? And if so, will you continue to write books that celebrate the Hispanic culture?
Yes, I do have plans to write more books. I have, definitely as a tech school, we use technology to really help us. And I want you to know that Google Docs and Google Drive has been something that has helped me write my books and communicate with my illustrator. I currently use a Google Sheet to go ahead and write down ideas that I have. And one of the books that I will be working on soon is a STEAM book, A through Z, with Latinx and Hispanic contributors to STEAM and STEM jobs and careers. Aside from highlighting Latinos and Hispanics, I really think that cultivating a STEAM culture and STEM culture is really important for us and for you guys growing up as kids to really get into these fields. And I want to make sure that my audience, which tends to be either immigrants or Hispanic and Latinx people from those cultures, I want them to see themselves again represented, not only through culture, but hey, did you know that so and so contributed this way to science, technology, engineering, arts, and math?
Do you have a final message that you might like to share with the Tiger Tech podcast audience?
Yes, definitely. First of all, thank you for having me here. If I can give one message to the students at Garbanza is write, make your own book. You can get a stapler, you can get tape, put some pages together and just start writing. If you're using Google Docs, just start writing. If you have some ideas of, something that you want to share, no one can tell your story like you can. So definitely you have a story to share it, start writing it. And, don't say, oh, well, I don't want to show it to anyone. Show it to your teachers. Keep it for yourself. And you don't have to be an adult to be an author. You can do this. One thing I want to mention before I leave for sure is I was able to write and publish these books. I did it through Amazon. And so I didn't need a publisher. I didn't need a distributor. Amazon is my distributor. Yes, you do have to follow certain guidelines, like certain fonts and so forth, but you can go ahead and publish your own books and have them on Amazon and have your family and friends. So you have a story to tell it, write it, draw it, and put it out for the world.
Thank you again for joining us today. We hope you learned something from today's podcast about the celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month from children's book author Miss Julia Cervantes-Espinoza. Please stay tuned for the next Tiger Tech podcast.